loans up to $30,000, which are completely interest-free loans. And so we understand that funding is a problem for persons within the creative industry, and so we have been doing our part to see how we can make access to funding more accessible for persons in that sector. Secondly, through regulations, we are seeking to optimize the legal and regulatory environment to reduce barriers and provide the foundational pillars for a thriving industry. We are in the process of establishing working relationships with other government ministries to facilitate initiatives such as hassle-free approval for hosting your mass gatherings, duty-free and/or reduction waivers for creative items, enforced legal protections for your work through our collaboration with the Eastern Caribbean Collective Organization for Music Rights, as well as the Intellectual Property Office, and as well as the Commissioner of Police. We are also trying to establish incentives to help you to be able to do and get the rewards that you need for your creative works. And we have also partnered with the cable in order for you to be able to be provided with the option of upgrading your internet service packages for only $97. You'll be able to receive the extreme package of 160 megabytes down and 35 megabytes up. The regular cost is usually $500. So if you are within the creative industry, within the entertainment industry, you will come to our offices at the ICT Center, sign up with us, and then we'll be able to provide you with access to this extreme package of 160 down and 35 up for only $97, which should have been a value of $500. We would ensure that we continue capacity building for persons, and we're partnering with CFBC to do so in terms of being able to offer training in areas such as the Academy for Women Entrepreneurship. We're also partnering to be able to provide training for web development for MSMEs through an OAS Development Cooperation Fund. We're also partnering with the Eastern Caribbean Green Entrepreneurship Initiative. This is more so for persons within the innovative space. And we're also partnering with the Ministry of Gender and Social Affairs through their Taiwanese-funded project, the Economic Empowerment of Women in Latin America and the Caribbean. We'll also continue our public awareness campaigns to make sure persons understand the importance of this sector and this industry and how it can assist in the growth of our economy as well, and how this sector is not just a hobby-based sector, but is a thriving sector that can really assist with our economic growth. These are just some of the ways in which the ministry will continue on its path to building out this industry that we see as a very lucrative industry. You don't have to go far to see the type of impact that the entertainment industry have within our federation. Let's consider Music Festival and all of the spin-off economic activity because of the Music Festival, which is really and truly an entertainment event. Even if we look at Carnival and we look at all of the spin-off activities that are through Carnival we are able to achieve in our economy, and that type of money and investments that have been pumped into our economy because of Carnival, which again is an entertainment-based type of event. So we want to see more of that in St. Kitts and Nevis. We want persons to recognize the value of it, and we want to see it as a way to diversify our economy, move us into a different space. All of that creative talent that we have, how can we hone that talent and develop that talent and get it to a place where it's not just lucrative for the individual, but it also bears benefit for our economy as well. So as we begin to discuss recovery from the pandemic, as we begin to discuss our way forward, as we begin to discuss that stronger, safer future, we believe that diversification through the entertainment industry is one way in which we can ensure that we can have a successful economy, we could have a stronger, safer future. And so I'm looking forward to the questions. I'm looking forward to persons out there who have ideas on how we can even take it further. We also want to ensure that we continue our dialogue with persons within the industry. And so yes, we've begun a series of forums which ended last Friday, but that will continue because we believe from the government's point of view that it's important to get feedback, it's important to hear from you, it's important to learn from you so that we get it right and we can be able to move our economy into different areas that would be a success to us. Just recently we would have announced that WINNMedia, which is in Nevis and doing very well with movies, is now coming over to St. Kitts and doing the same thing here, helping our federation with the build out of our film and photography industry. And we welcome that and we understand and see the spin-offs from that. We have persons who would be able to be trained in different areas of film through that partnership and through that relationship. And so we're looking forward to that partnership bearing fruit and building out of our film and photography. And it's the same thing across all the other sectors, because we strongly believe that through the build out of this particular industry, we can see even more economic growth and we can see the benefits that can be derived from that industry. So we're looking forward to the discussion as we unfold tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing about more ideas and to be able to answer questions that you may have about this new ministry and how it can help us with our diversification of our economy as we move forward in 2022 and beyond with our safer, stronger future.
Thank you so much, Minister Akila Byron Nisbet. We're now going to hear from Accountant General Levi Bradshaw.
Moderator. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, fellow panelists. A pleasant good evening to the viewing and listening audience. I am truly grateful for the invitation to this forum once again, where the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis are afforded the opportunity to participate in the budget process. Indeed, an effective budgetary process is one which takes the contributions, views, and opinions of all stakeholders, weighs and considers them, and transforms them into a set of proposals for action for the betterment of our nation. The budget process allows the government to set its fiscal objectives in respect of revenue, expenditure, debt repayment, and investment. It allows the government to maintain effective fiscal control and plan for the coming year and beyond. The budget process allows the government to allocate available resources consistent with its own strategic objectives and priorities, to fulfill the legislative requirements for the budget, and to seek authority from Parliament for spending. The national budget is therefore the central policy document of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, outlining how it will prioritize and achieve its annual and multi-annual objectives. It aims to turn plans and aspirations into reality. But more than this, the budget is a contract between citizens and the state, showing how resources are raised and allocated and for the delivery of public services. The budget cycle is a continuous process of events and activities occurring during the entire financial year, and which are designed to achieve effective and efficient planning for and implementation and monitoring of the national budget. The budget cycle consists of a number of phases. The budget formulation phase, which involves the participation of all ministries and departments, where strategic planning and which culminates with the estimates committee's meetings. Budget approval, which gives Parliament the opportunity to review, debate, and enact into law the Appropriation Act. The budget cycle also includes budget execution, and this is a very critical part of the budget, where approval of the general warrant by the Minister of Finance give the authority to the Accountant General to execute spending out of the consolidated fund. It also provides, through that particular execution stage, the opportunity for the Accountant General's Department to update in its financial management system the newly approved budget. Budget oversight is also an important element in the budget cycle, where the accounts, the public accounts that are prepared in the Office of the Accountant General are brought to the Office of the Director of Audit for auditing. The annual budget exercise is led by the Ministry of Finance under the leadership of the Financial Secretary with the guidance of the Minister of Finance. However, the Accountant General plays a critical role and indeed a pivotal role in the budget process, from formulation as a member of the Estimates Committee to budget execution as the primary officer authorized by the Minister of Finance to issue to undertake any spending from the Consolidated Fund. The Accountant General Department, through its Systems and Network Management Unit, is responsible for the management of the government's Integrated Financial Management Information System. This is the primary platform used by the government for transacting financial activities with its stakeholders. Indeed, the Accountant General Department, through its Internal Audit Unit, plays a lead role in the continuous monitoring of the execution and implementation of budget initiatives, both on the recurrent expenditure side and on the capital expenditure side. Indeed, the cash management and payroll units ensure that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis continues to fulfill its financial obligations on a timely basis to its employees, pensioners, service providers, and holders of government investment instruments such as Treasury bills, Saving Bank, and National Savings Scheme. In relation to budget oversight, the Accountant General Department, Ministry of Finance, through its Accounting and Reporting Unit, is responsible for the preparation of the public accounts. The public accounts of St. Kitts and Nevis must be completed and submitted to the Office of the Director of Audit by the 30th of June annually. And without failure, we have been meeting that particular requirement as is required by our laws. The 2021 budget under the theme Fortitude During Pandemic, Resilience, Recovery and Transformation laid the foundation for the road to recovery. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis focused substantial effort and resources in supporting the vulnerable and protecting lives and livelihoods and jobs through multiple stimulus programs. These programs included the Poverty Alleviation Program, the Income Support Program, the Disability Support Program, and the Fuel Support Program. The Accountant General Department of the Ministry of Finance provided active support in the delivery of all of these programs. However, as we look forward, the 2022 budget is therefore a critical planning tool for the recovery of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why the participation of all our stakeholders are so critical. Indeed, this upcoming budget represents not only our plans for the Federation's recovery, but our plans for the future. That plan must include tackling the challenges we currently face, keeping our people safe and well as we manage a global pandemic, as well as providing the framework or blueprint to rebuild our economy stronger after this massive global shock. The Accountant General Department would have participated in the process relating to the STEP regularization and pension reform initiative of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And indeed, the government has given a commitment that it would want to move forward with this process. I'm pleased to report that the committee would have completed, with the support and guidance of the steering team and the guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister. And the report is now completed, and we will shortly be making a presentation to the Cabinet. And hopefully within the in the short term, we'll be hearing much more about this. But it's an important initiative because it will provide stability to a number of persons who have been employed in the public service for a very long time, especially our GAEs, government auxiliary workers. And the government would have passed legislation to ensure that these persons are afforded the same level of protection as our monthly paid employees. Indeed, those persons who are on the STEP program would also be happy to note that our work would have included that particular program and government's plan to regularize persons on the STEP program. So I will end here now, but would want to thank you for listening and be available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bradshaw. We're now going to hear from the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department, Mr. Edward Gift.
Good evening to everyone. Please permit me to recognize the protocol previously established. However, safe to mention, allow me to recognize the Prime Minister, Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris, Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, Minister of Health, ICT, et al. Good evening, everyone. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic presents many risks that could derail our economic recovery in 2022. Our Honorable Prime Minister noted that in our 2022 budget represents our beacon and planning tool to chart our way and set us on a sustainable path towards recovery and growth as noted by the IMF. This evening, I aim to summarize the Inland Revenue Department's role in supporting the delivery of the 22 budget and its importance in our recovery process. Why paying taxes is important for our budget. Without taxes, government would be unable to meet the needs of its citizens, finance the costs of expenditure and development projects as noted in the Prime Minister's address to generate economic recovery and, most importantly, growth. Taxes are crucial because if our government is unable to collect revenues, it would be unable to perform functions for its citizens. The government uses revenues generated by the Inland Revenue Department in its budget to execute 5 primary functions. 1, provide health care. Without taxes, government contribution to the healthcare sector would be impossible. Taxes provide funding for our 911 emergency response team, nurses, doctors, provide funding to support the purchase of protective and medical equipment to fight the pandemic and the salaries of persons employed in the health sector. Secondly, government uses revenues to provide education. Children are not charged a fee for attending government schools. Revenues collected from taxes are used to pay teachers, purchase books, pay student examination fees, and maintain the overall public education system. Government also uses revenues to provide social protection programs. Revenues collected from taxes are used to support numerous social protection programs in the Federation that support the economic well-being of our citizens. This include, for example, employment programs such as the STEP and the financing of the regularization of this program as mentioned by the Accountant General. Also, the government provides expenditure support on gasoline, cooking gas, and electricity. In addition, funding is provided for the COVID-19 Income Support Program along with the Poverty Alleviation Program, commonly known as PAP. In addition, as mentioned earlier by the Prime Minister, the Christmas and VAT concessions on food and vehicles, etc., is financed by our budget. These schemes benefit our Federation by redirecting millions of dollars back into the economy. By paying your taxes on time, you, our citizens, support local businesses and this recovery process. Also, revenues from the budget provide infrastructural development projects, as noted by the Prime Minister. The budget provides funding for governments to finance projects such as the Island Main Road expansion projects, other roads in community sidewalks, the Old Road Bay protection project. When government collects monies from taxes, it plows this money back into developing these capital projects that promote economic activity throughout the country by providing incomes for persons and businesses. Also, money collected from taxes is used to fund sectors that are crucial for the well-being of our citizens. For example, security services in the provision of police, Coast Guard, and Defense Force, the provision of affordable housing solutions through the NHC Corporation, enabling the food security of the nation as outlined by the many programs by the Department of Agriculture and the new Old Road Fisheries Project, and more importantly, continue the repurchase of land for housing development under the land for debt swap. We must add that taxes collected support businesses within the local economy. How does this happen? Businesses flourish when there is a market for their goods and services. Government, through its many income support programs and capital projects, provides money and employment to its citizens to purchase goods and services sold by local businesses. Please permit me in identifying the role that the IRD performs in the budget process. That is, the role that IRD performs is twofold, that it is focused on restoring revenues and protecting the revenue base. While revenue collection is a pressing need, the Inland Revenue Department is mindful of the economic impact that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to have on some businesses and individuals, and the need for a fair and equitable system to be in place. We understand that this crisis would have affected different persons and segments of the economy in different ways. In the context of a potentially uneven recovery for some industries within the economy, the department will not adopt a one-size-fits-all approach for its customers by using a heavy-handed approach to revenue collection. The Inland Revenue Department is committed to building a relationship with its customers by working together during this recovery period in keeping as many businesses as possible operational while promoting compliance with the Federation tax laws. On the other hand, outstanding taxes to the government must be reported and paid on time, notwithstanding our attempts to build a partnership. As I noted earlier, and the Prime Minister has stated, given the challenges of the pandemic, taxpayer filing compliance has fluctuated in some instances. Some of it has increased and decreased, whether intentionally or unintentionally. As shown on the screen, we have the filing compliance of major revenue heads in the budget. As we have noted that the corporate income tax, that compliance has increased from its average for the period 2019 to 2014. It has moved from 55% to 64% now in 2021. Withholding taxes, the compliance percentage has fallen to 77%. Value-added tax collected by businesses on behalf of the government have seen a reduction in its compliance rate to 68%. Unincorporated taxes paid by small businesses, this has seen an increase in compliance to 67%. Again, the aims of the department would be focus on restoring revenue, on identifying new revenue streams. The department would be focused on businesses that do not comply by failing to file, register, and report to the department. In response to this challenge, the department has deployed a field team that would be canvassing the Federation to identify these businesses. As noted in the Prime Minister's address, that there are many innovative sectors and the economy is shifting to a digital stage. The department will be shifting its attention to focus on businesses in this digital space by focusing on businesses that operate under the tourism brand that via Airbnb, Expedia, or Facebook. In addition, the department will be focusing on establishing strategic alliances with other government departments, public sector corporations, and private organizations in the implementation of a tax compliance certificate to promote tax compliance. An important part of restoring revenues involves working with customers to make it easier for them to comply. We have focused on expanding our e-services. For example, we have launched a quick payment option whereby persons can renew their motor vehicle licenses, driver's licenses, and pay property tax without coming into the department and reducing their exposure to any instances of COVID. Again, we also request that taxpayers in the diaspora use this quick payment option to renew their motor driver's license and make property tax payment, as they may be unable to travel for other reasons. Again, the department is also focusing on launching a mobile app for the payment of taxes. Importantly, the government is also the department would also be actively engaged in the process of communicating the government's commitment to helping taxpayers meet their obligations as they restore their businesses. One, we will be more actively engaged via social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, in providing information of how persons could increase their compliance. Secondly, we will also be issuing more payment reminders. One thing that we have done is for this month for November, we have issued payment reminders to persons who have not paid all of their property taxes. Again, we encourage you to come into the department and discuss your situation with us. Another important aspect of the Inland Revenue role in the budget will be focused on protecting our revenue basis by closely monitoring taxpayers' filing and payment behavior to identify emerging trends. As you would have seen earlier, in terms of, we have recognized that there are some instances where compliance has slipped. As stated earlier, many businesses have been negatively impacted by this crisis, while others have benefited. The department will continue monitoring these patterns to ensure that taxpayers are not abusing the stimulus measures and using the crisis to avoid paying taxes, and focusing on new businesses that have emerged or grown during the pandemic. Secondly, the department will be focusing on enforcement and using a tailored approach to managing risks. We would be conducting a risk assessment of all of our arrears to identify large debtors and higher value new debts, and establish relationships with customers to have these debts settled. Secondly, we'll be focused on using aggressive collection techniques for taxpayers that deliberately refuse to comply. We do recognize that there are some persons that are collecting VAT, Island Enhancement Tax, and are keeping such funds. We know that this is a situation that our citizens do not tolerate. We would be focusing on ensuring that these persons, whether through aggressive measures, file and pay these taxes to the department. Again, the Ministry of Finance and Department would like to thank all those citizens that continue to voluntarily come into our offices at Bastille and Charlestown, or use our online portal at sknird.com to pay their taxes. Taxes are essential, and again, we would like to thank all the responsible citizens that, despite their trying times, are paying their taxes on time. Their tax payments support the government in its delivery of services to its citizens and provide resources to mitigate the adverse effects of this pandemic. For persons who have been negatively affected by the pandemic, we ask that you come into the department, speak with us, let us be aware of your situation, and we will develop a payment plan based upon these needs. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Mr. Gift, for your presentation. We're going to take a short break now because you've heard from the Prime Minister and his guests, and now we're eager to hear from you. So we're going to take a short break, and once we return, we're going to go to the phone lines and take your WhatsApp messages. So stay tuned.
It's only just a phase. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gonna be safe. Everybody gonna be safe. One kind, one people. We are roll up to roll up. Cause no man's alone. Do what's right. Cause I love you. And we're in this together. My sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah. It's better for us than your mommy to let it roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot. St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
We have callers on hold already? Welcome back to Leadership Matters. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your moderator this evening, and we are at the segment where we are going to take your calls. You can call in, and if you have a suggestion or a question, we are happy to hear either. So, this evening, Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who is the person behind the program, he's joined by the Minister of Health, ICT, Entertainment, Entrepreneurship and Talent Development, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet. He's also joined by the Accountant General, Levi Bradshaw. For those of you who always have to write Accountant General on a check, Levi Bradshaw. And the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department, also known as the IRD, Mr. Edward Gift. So we're going to go to the phone lines now and take your calls, your queries, concerns, suggestions, and recommendations. We are happy to have you. So, welcome to Leadership Matters. We'll take our first call. Okay. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're
Good
live.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. PM and your panel of experts. Welcome back. On the lighter side, before I get into my question, there's a businessman down in the Pelican Mall who claims that he should be on Leadership Matters because he's leading in business, and he's also leading in the church. Maybe you might have wished to consider that businessman and pastor at some time on your program. That's only a light one. Mr. PM, you referred to the IMF Article 4 report for St. Kitts Nevis. last night, the Honorable Ian Patches Liber referred to it and to clear up a deception by a radio station which says that the government had blocked the report from public viewing. What I would like to know, though, because we now recognize that is totally untrue, he did mention, that is Mr. Liber, did mention that the estimated GDP growth was in the region of 10%. What I would like to know, because most of us cannot read the 72 pages of this document, this important document, is that what are the good points and the bad points as observed by the IMF in relation to St. Kitts and Nevis? It's public knowledge, so there's nothing to hide, I believe. But most of us will not be able to read it and understand it, as we're not financial experts. But I'll listen off line for your answer. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hi, thank you so much for participating in the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening, Jackie. Thanks for taking my call. And good evening, Mr. PM, Mr. Keeler Byron, Mr. Bradshaw, and Mr. Gift. Wonderful panel as usual. A wonderful program. Mr. Prime Minister, I do not have many things to say tonight, but the little that I have to say, I think they would be of great value. First of all, Mr. PM, I want to thank you very much for the kind of person you are, a loving leader of a country, a loving Prime Minister. You cares about people's lives more than your pocket. And so therefore, I highly commend you for that. And I'm asking you, how did you get it done in this terrible pandemic situation? You're able to take this country through rough waters without going to the IMF to borrow any kind of money. Well, my God, I'm going to say like the people who asked Jesus, what manner of man is he? Well, I'm asking you, what manner of man are you to handle this situation? Because the leader before you, when the crime was high, very high, and someone asked him what he's going to do about the crime, he said, he's not taking any responsibility for no crime. Crime could happen like water falling off a duck back. He didn't tell anybody to kill anybody, so he's not taking any responsibility. So therefore, you show that you are a different leader to him and others. Even though people dragging you down to the ground and saying that you're not a good leader, but they know better. So I am highly commending you for that. And the last thing, I am asking the Attorney General, please move that kind of penalty what he got for people who break the law, especially with guns and ammunition. Because it seems like the penalty that he has for those people is trying to take a piece of toilet paper to chop off a man's neck. So you know what kind of penalty that is? Well, I am asking him, anybody is caught with an illegal gun should be no less than 50 years in jail or $75,000. Because the fact remains you have it illegal, that's law number one you break. And then to work with it, law number two, you want to use it to kill people. Just recently the police catch a woman, a young girl with a gun in she bag. And I mean, why she should walk from her home with that is to use it on people. So I'm asking that the Attorney General table a bill to deal with this situation, because people, they do not understand that the government has tried hard to cut this gun out and this killing, and they start this foolishness again. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, and everybody on the panel.
Thank you so much for participating in this evening's program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening, sweet sister Cynthia, calling from Freedom FM, and I'm here. Let me just say good night to everybody on the panelists, but I'm also here to basically speak about entertainment. The beautiful Keeler Byron, hi love, and Prime Minister, good night to everybody. My question is, as you guys know, that entertainment and entertainers has been hit some of the hardest during this pandemic, especially those who have nothing else but entertainment to make a dollar. My question is, what is going to be done? I mean, what is next? What is going to be done for the entertainers in terms of, like, for instance, Carnival is coming. Are you guys going to be doing any vaccination events or, rapid testing events, whereas you get tested before you go to the event? Is there any way that entertainers can make $1 for themselves or for even their family for the carnival? And next thing, duty free. Sometimes we have entertainers who can, have their license like me, and we apply and we do all we have to do to get duty free. But sometimes we have to go through a lot of loopholes, full stops, commas, brackets, question marks, and the amount of things. Sometimes it takes a whole year, which to me is really crazy and really ridiculous. What is going to be done for entertainers to get better in terms of duty free? Whereas, is there anything going to be done where you don't have to go through 100 holes before you actually get that duty free that we think that we deserve? And next thing, even with loans. Sometimes entertainers want to get loans, maybe to bring in a little system, bring in something so that they can do better for themselves. So even if they can't play music, they could put on the system here and make a little change. Is there any way, whereas that we can have something done where there is an entertainment loan where the interest is not as high as if you're going to build a house, So those are just some of the questions I really want to ask, because I'm an entertainer. I'm very quiet with certain things, but it's reached to a point where we just wondering what's next, what's happening for us. Where are we going? Should we hang up our robes and put it down? We really want to know what's next, because even when I attended the event the other day with Miss Byron, I sat patiently hoping to hear that there's going to be something coming for us. And I actually left because I was a little bit disappointed to not hear that. Okay, everything that's coming is great, right? Everything I heard is great, but are we going to be able to make $1? Are we going to be able to eat? Are we going to make bread? When is this going to happen? And it's getting very scary, and I'm worried about my other colleagues who don't even have anything else but entertainment. What are you guys planning for us? We really need to know. Please and thanks. I'll listen off here.
Well, thank you so much for participating in our program, Sister Sincere. We've made a note of your questions, and I want to thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to make sure they get answered. We're going to take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes, good night, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good night.
Yes, this is Jam down here. Quickly, Mr. Prime Minister. Think it's Nevis is running good. Think it's Nevis is running good. Mr. Prime Minister, some years back, you allocate some money. Fix those toilets in the Pelican Mall. What become of the toilets in the Pelican Mall? Because down there full of, what do you call the thing there? The toilet is very, very bad, Mr. Prime Minister. As you get in to come through by the gazebo, to come over to Port Zante, man, it's terrible, Mr. Prime Minister. And I want to know if the money, because here Patches talk about the money the cabinet approved. And it look like the money just fixed upstairs and not downstairs. So we want to know, because a lot of concerned citizens around this country, the next thing, Mr. Prime Minister, we want to know why is it all these Indian shops down there opening, looking for business after 21 months suffering, and you cannot get the tourists there, come back to, drop off in the taxi stand and give them some business. These stakeholders, this tourism depends on these stakeholders down there. The journey, Mr. Prime Minister, these shops, the paying big rent, the owners looking the rent. Please have some hearings. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, because John not going pleased with what's going on, And it looks like I'm going to ask you for a cabinet shift. Have a good night. This is John talking.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program, Jamdon. We're going to take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night.
Hi.
Leadership really matters. I want to say good night to the Honorable Prime Minister and to the other panelists there, Honorable Keela Byron Bisbit, Mr. Bradshaw, and Mr. Case, and of course your host, Mr. Brian. First off, Mr. Prime Minister, my phone is going crazy because you have continued to show good leadership. And you have answered one of my questions. And what is it? It's about that duty-free concession that everybody keep asking by saying, Bucky, when leadership matter comes up, could you ask the Prime Minister for us to get more months, more days of the duty-free concession? So the public want to thank you for that. We now have 3 months to shop, and you have done that because of the shopping delay. So the government has chosen the best leader to lead this team unity government. Now let's move on to the budget. In terms of the budget for the upcoming budget, I want to focus on two things here. One of it is the healthcare system. I know we have some labs here, but do you have plans to focus more on healthcare in terms of maybe having a better dialysis machine? What about having an MRI scan machine at the hospital? I can see this generating revenue for the country where persons from our nearby island can visit our shore and use these equipment. We know there's I will say a high enough percentage of persons suffering from cancer. So instead of we have to be going to Trinidad and Antigua for chemo treatment, how about having something in place here? So I would love to see if the government will try to focus more on the healthcare system. What about education? Education is key. I know the new Barnstable High School is supposed to come, and that's something that is an upgrade where students can feel more comfortable sitting. Because if you're in a classroom sitting and it's clean and tidy, you tend to learn better. So is there anything for the education system? Just to pick it back a bit on the healthcare. We're in the pandemic still, and it's going to be here for a while. So I really think that the government should spend more of its finance and the healthcare system. Now to Mr. Gift. I know during the lockdown and going after, I've seen some long lines at Inland Revenue, especially during month end. And I know you have you introduced some plan where persons are allowed to pay online. But I'm still seeing this long line. What are your plans going forward to reduce these long lines so persons can not be out in the sun for a very long time and they're able to maneuver and get you with their business? I think focusing on the elderly person who don't want to use the Visa card or don't have a Visa card, what are your plans to capitalize on these electronic movements? I want to say thank you, good night, and this is Bucky Garrett and Bucky Garrett. Over.
Thank you so much for your call. Allow me to announce the numbers, which I think I failed to do before we started taking calls. So allow me to, just a moment, to announce the numbers. If you want to participate in the program, you can do so by dialing 466-2666 or 662-8674 or 767-4765. And the international line is 1-239-645-4500, and those numbers are listed at the bottom of your screen for your convenience. You can also send WhatsApp messages to 661-5683, that's 661-5683, or 660-7168, that's 660-7168. We have a few more calls on hold. We'll go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Good evening. Hello.
Hi. And a special good evening to the Prime Minister for the continued good work he's doing week after week to try to bring a good panel on his show so he can explain to the general public how the country is moving forward and how the country is working. Now, I want to go to Mr. Gibbs. Mr. Gibbs, I think you was a young guy those times, but when you used to keep a function, a gentleman from Inland Revenue used to be by the door. When you're keeping a function, them things don't happen now. So all of them who want to be in the entertainment business to raise money for themselves and the government don't get none, you got to come back to that strategy and put a man by the door. When they apply for a permit, you send somebody there to make sure that when they collect, the Inland Revenue collect. And to my senator lady there, Mr. Byron, I getting a little confused with the carnival. You know, on the street, you hear in the carnival gone forget back. So, what happened to those poor people who come from all the way in the country? They're going to have to jump off by the bus stop and take another bus to go forget back. What happened to the park? Utilize what we have. You know, we can't be just doing things to suit certain set of people. And when we go forget back, it's only the poor man who ain't got it paying. The rest of them getting free tickets. And this is what goes on in this country all the time. And then back to, you know, Mr. Prime Minister. I want you to take a good look about the situation down at Port Zante. You were talking about 14 to 18 months people in open up down the people in thinking. And I see down there now the ship come, they gone with the people and them, and when they come, they drop them right back by the pier. You know, you put out so much effort, and your colleagues and them and so on, to make sure people vaccinated in this country. I see a lady come there today with her child, bought a pair of shoes Saturday, and if she go in school, the child got in school clothes, and they could not go by the place to get the shoes changed so the child could go to school. I figured that was a kind of disgrace, you know. But what you need to do well, today I see them abandon the place there. They move from by the gate, so people just come in and go out and so on like that. But I think I can't tell you to move the fence because me got the export in them kind of things. But I think something needs to be done. Because if the people them is vaccinated, I think they should be able to go to the shops them out there. Some of the shops them out there don't deal with no tourist thing. They deal with the poor people by selling a phone, a radio, a TV, a washing machine, a stove, and them kind of thing. And people can't go to them other than nearby the gate. At least somebody should escort them to the store where they're going and let them buy what they got to buy and go back outside if they're fully vaccinated. You know, so I think you need to look into that. And Mr. Bradshaw, keep up the good work you're doing, Leo. So all the best to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your call and for your questions and concerns, and we've made a note of them. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to thank the Prime Minister and the lady who called about the step workers, and he promised before the budget he will come and give us an update. So I'd like to say thanks for the update, and I'm looking forward for the day that I'm able to hear whether our officially over and government, because you must have something and other even as tested from the step in St. Kitts. So it may take about 2 months before I could get a pay slip. So all these Nakamo step workers getting, then it will be a relief for us as step workers to move up. So I just have to say thank you very much and God bless.
Thank you so much for your call. And I think that many step workers are benefiting from your persistence. So thank you so much for your call. We'll take another caller. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night.
Hi, good evening.
Good night, everybody. Miss Brian, you're doing a very good job, as the Prime Minister told you the last time. My best Prime Minister. Others know that you're good, but say different. That's them. Who was better? If they cross over or under, what you say you're going to do, you does do. You're giving money after money. They're giving you bad names, but that don't mind. You're here for them. People will always there for you. May God bless you. Health, strength, extra protection. I am here for you. Mr. Gift, good night. How are you? Get home safely all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've not heard her voice in a while. It's good to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Hello. Hi, good evening. You're live.
Good evening, Leadership Matter. Good evening, Leadership Matters. Good evening, Ms. Byron. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister and your panel, my good friend PM, DJ Marisha here, coming to you live from the Bronx. How are you doing, sir?
I am fine, thank you much.
Okay. Well, I'm here looking at you, and I've been trying to call in for the past half an hour in the call. I hope you don't drop by accident. I know the technology when we're having conversation that is not pleasing how they drop out. But anyway, Mr. PM, I am still waiting for the opportunity to meet with you, whether in person or virtually. There's a lot that is happening in the Federation. I don't need to tell the people of the good that is happening. I think you have said enough. So I will say what I am concerned about. I listened to Mr. Gift spoke about how the taxes have been utilized for the country. But one thing I see that he left out is that those taxes pays the government workers, including the politicians and everything like that. So I would like him to make sure he clear up that our good taxes also go that. I have some issues as someone in the diaspora here, where we are hearing a lot of things happening in the Federation. And we have a missing in action ambassador to the UN here in the likes of Mr. Ian Patches Libard, who seems to want to choose which citizen he will meet with. I have been trying to reach Mr. Patches now since the 23rd of August, and I'm able to get up into our mission where prior to this government, I was able to walk up into the mission and speak to anyone up there, secretary, set up a meeting and say what we have to say. All citizens are entitled to meet with our people. That seems to be a problem under this unity government. And as I have said on my program weekly, I am one who supported the change of government because when I spoke with you, Mr. PM, your manifesto, your position in what you plan to do when you get into government sounded great. But since the arrival of this team unity administration, there's a lot of loose balls throwing. You have said openly and privately to me that you expect us to hold your foot to the fire and your government foot to the fire when you're going off track. And I have done so because of my love for the Federation, because for my love for you as a friend, and I want to see this government do well. If this government do well, then our country is doing well. So in the event that we are seeing things that is not working out, I think we as citizens here in the diaspora should tell you. And what Alva Pemberton and Ian Patches Libard is doing here in the New York area is not representing the Federation properly, Mr. PM. I know that over 98% of us have common sense, and even 10% of us have common sense, and I have been trying to reach out to Mr. Libard to speak to him about his statement. I've been trying to reach you, Mr. Prime Minister, unable. If Mr. Keela Byron check her WhatsApp message, she realized I sent her a message last week asking for an audience with her to speak about certain things that I can do to assist in that ministry where entertainment is concerned. I have yet to hear back from Mr. Keela Byron. Mr. Prime Minister, I have one final thing to say to you, and I would hope that you can answer me straight tonight. Because during your time trying to get into office, I supported your efforts with your demonstration trying to march in the name of peace and unity in the Federation. I understand you reach as far as St. Vincent with your placard, democracy, no peace. So why is it that our citizens today in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis cannot say to the government that we don't like this, we don't like that, we need this, we need that, or cannot stand on the sidewalk peacefully with a placard and not been arrested, tear gassed, misled? These folks have been arrested since the 20th of August. We are now in November. There are all kind of people that I know coming for music festival and cut a simple bad word. And by the next day, they're in front of a judge, they pay the fine, and they're gone back to America with our dollars. Why is it these people are still going through this stress, not knowing their fate for something that, in my view, is a right that they have? I am in North America, I am a Kittitian, I am a Paul's man, and I could walk down in the middle of Manhattan and walk with a placard and say what I have to say. No democracy, no peace, do this, do that. Nothing is done to me or my other colleagues. Why is it in our federation where we say a country where peace abound, country above service over motto, that our people cannot speak, Mr. PM. I am asking you, Mr. PM, to reach out to me. Let's have a one-on-one, because I don't want to disrespect you on this program. I want to speak to you where we have an open one-on-one conversation and understand each other. So there's a lot more that I have to say, but I'm not going to say them tonight. I am going to give you the opportunity again to reach out to me, Mr. PM.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your call. I think as you started, so you ended, that you would like to speak with the Prime Minister. I believe he's made a note of that, and I trust that he will be able to sort that out. I know that that's something that you were able to achieve on this program when you wanted to have a meeting with him, and I've made a note of your concerns, your two main concerns when you called, and I will put those to the relevant person. So thank you so much for your call. I think we have one more call on hold that we can take before we get some responses. So we'll take that final call for now. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I am addressing the Prime Minister with my comments, question. During the recent press conference, comment an answer was given by, I think, the Ministry of Trade and Commerce about trading with Brazil through Guyana. I hope you can answer, not get. But trading through Guyana, I know Brazil. I've been to Brazil. I've been there since I was 22 years old. From St. Kitts, went to Brazil at 22 years old. Been to quite a few places in Brazil. And one of the things that I know of Brazil is, as far as transportation within the country, it's almost inadequate. There is no good system to get goods from the industrial hub of Brazil, which is in Sao Paulo, in the southeast of the country, to the north, where it would cross the border to get into Guyana. Doing this, I understood, I think, from the press conference that the reason for getting goods into Guyana was to get some kind of authority for getting CARICOM into CARICOM and then shipping them from Guyana to the other Caribbean islands. That's in the CARICOM agreement. I do not think that is actually the way to go for expense purposes as well as timely shipping. I think it would be better to go by ship from Sao Paulo up the coast of Brazil to the closest Caribbean island, which would be probably Barbados, and then from there through the other Caribbean islands. We may even include Guyana. I am also a merchant marine officer, been a merchant marine officer since 1995. Started in the merchant marine in 1980. So I know this type of stuff. I do not think it is wise. You know, I do understand, I think, why the question of getting the goods into Brazil would, to get it into the CARICOM system. But I think it's about time we, as the Caribbean countries, actually started doing trade with Brazil, directly with Brazil, even outside of CARICOM.
Okay. I think we lost that caller. However, he was sharing his experiences with us, and I want to thank him for using this platform to provide some of what he's observed and make some recommendations as well. At this point, we're going to address, I think we have one more call on the line. Do we? Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yeah, you're looking at them, just looking for lovely. Yeah, my concern, right? I am a business person down into town at the ferry terminal, and we know they said that they all having carnival this year, so I was concerned about how it's going to go. Because, you know, if it's 50th anniversary, I think everybody need a piece of bread, not just carry it to some far place, but never needed nobody gonna get no bread like me because me not have no money to hire a chance to take it over there. What's not, maybe the area will be so expensive that I'm not able to reach. And it's not fair for we are having 58th anniversary. And you know, it's like go down better. Like that. It's not fair. I don't know who really running this thing here. We need to pep up this thing. It's our 50th anniversary of Carnival. I think we need to lose the ball, as I say, lose everything, and let things go good. Because for the few months now, we're making no money. Sometimes you go down there on a weekend, you hardly could make a $5 from a $2. So I don't know what's really going on. I ain't want to say it to them because we say that you got offended like you rich getting rich and the poor will get poorer. I am in the business for 21 years now, and it will be very hard to see 58th anniversary coming and like we ain't enjoying it. We need a little juve. That is what will pep up the place. You know, you could get some drinks. Look, Miami just had a big carnival the other day, and they're bigger than us. So I'm very concerned. I beg the Prime Minister, Mr. Timothy Harris, and your board members, then please look into this thing. Who you all put to organize this thing? They done reach from left to right, you know, from grandmother to grandfather's side. Right? So they won't be care where this guy, what about going over forgiveness? Going over forgiveness for what? You can't keep one the concert over there one night, them, but not everything going forgive me. Like Swallow saying everything going on points. I beg you all look for the poor people, Mr. PM. I put you there, you know. Right, I don't want twice, and I don't care what I just tell you, I say. I talk to my feeling, maybe I'm too outspoken, and that's me. So I beg you all look into this thing here, because it's not nice. The girl calling body entertainer business. People want money to pay the bills. It's your pain, you know. As I get a little change, I pay the government. I ain't going up to go buy no flashy this and flashy that. So I beg you all, please look into this thing. I'm very concernable. You have a good night, you hear?
Have a good night as well. Thank you so much for your call. And we have another caller who echoes similar sentiments. So I think we can actually begin with those concerns. I don't know, Mr. Prime Minister, who would be able to address the concerns about Carnival and where and how Carnival will be held this year and access to its activities, whether it's to participate or to profit from Carnival 50.
What I would do will be to thank the callers for expressing their concerns. And certainly Carnival is still some time away. So it is good that early people are indicating their preferences. And I am certain that those responsible for the organization of the Carnival will take note of the meaningful and heartfelt expressions of the people. Carnival, like everything else that this government does, must be about the people and must be an all-inclusive event. So the concerns are matters that I will take up and look at. And as I said, we still have some weeks before the Carnival begins in earnest. The format, of course, is still a matter that continues to be under consideration. So we look at these things. One of the benefits of the program such as this is that we are able to hear people. We are able to hear how they feel, what their preferences are, and we certainly listen, take note, and would respond appropriately. So I want to thank the Nuts lady, I think it was, and all the others who shared similar concern about the popularization of Carnival. I want to make one further point, whether it is Carnival, any mass event, for our people to be safe, they have to be vaccinated. And on that matter, we would want people to take particular note. We cannot open up the country and have a free-for-all. This carnival, and like other carnivals, would not be one in which we could be reckless with frolic, because the COVID-19 is still with us. And one of the things we will not have, or we will not want to have, is to have a super spreader event. Any mass event makes us vulnerable, and particular in circumstances where there is frolic, where people, whether to drink or music or other forms of stimulants, may behave in ways that allows for the spread of the COVID-19. So I just want to remind people there's still time to get vaccinated. That is how we reduce the risk. That is how we make it possible to have the best possible carnival, the best possible of any event to take place in a safe way that protects us all. But I hear, I note the concerns, and I certainly will address them at the cabinet level.
Mr. Prime Minister, can you also note the concerns that were raised by the caller, DJ Marisha, he identified himself to be, about accessing the ambassador based in New York, as well as persons being allowed to demonstrate peacefully and having a speedy trial if they've been charged in relation to a demonstration?
Well, the matter of trials is not one within the purview of the executive. There are different branches of the government. There's the executive, there's a parliament, and there is the judiciary. Judiciary is separate. They determine their calendar, they act on it. And we, the government itself, has cases that have been going on for a very long time, where we cannot seek to influence the judiciary in its timing and in setting its calendar. Of course, lawyers always can ask for emergency hearing, and that again will have to be adjudicated by the court, and only the court can deal with those matters. So I will stay far from any interpretation of the behavior of the court in terms of perception of delay. Where these things are taking place, lawyers can intervene with the court. And that is how the system is in our Westminster model of the democracy. They are separate. And they are separate here, they are separate in almost all democracies. And so that would be the answer in relation to timing and hearing. The government has nothing to do with those matters. The government itself has cases we would have preferred to have had heard at an earlier time. But it's all in the nature of the separation of powers. In terms of persons' rights, those rights are well protected, but every right comes with responsibility. And so it is easy to look to the right. There's also the duty of care. And in that regard, there are long-established procedures by which marches can take place. In fact, it is against the law. It's against the law to have an unauthorized march. And that matter, again, will be dealt with through the usual channels. Those who are charged with the duty to uphold law will, in fact, attempt to ensure that law is being upheld. I think that people have to be very mindful that the circumstances this year and last year, 2020, are very, turbulent circumstances, in that these are not normal days. We are in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. We are in the midst of circumstances where we have a very transmissible virus. And that, of course, have to contain all we do. It must contain how we, in 2021, conduct our carnival as it did last year. It determines how we conduct ourselves even in churches in terms of social distances. It determines duration of time. I mean, in some of the previous regulation, they told you how long you could have a funeral, how long you could have a wedding. I make those points and refer to them only to say that we are in changing times. And certain things that once could have been done in a particular matter certainly would not be allowable in these circumstances in which we are operating. And also, in our fight to contain the pandemic, we have been operating for some period of time under a state of emergency. And that also have certain consequences for certain things that are to occur in a country at a particular moment in time. But yes, we are strong in support of individual rights. We are strong in support of persons' ability to protest and to do all things that are part of the live democracy which we want to promote and even improve upon. But again, in these matters, good sense and good advice would be helpful. And I don't want to speak on any particular case except to deal with the generalities of what must exist in the context of our realities now. With reference to the inability to see the ambassador, of course, as far as I know, DJ and the ambassador had and perhaps still have, a good relationship. They have engaged in conversations over a period of time. I almost want to believe that I had heard the ambassador indicate that he would reach out to him and to speak with him and so on. The ambassador and I is very able of speaking for himself, but over the last couple of weeks, our ambassador has been leading the entire Caribbean community response leading up to what has been a very important General Assembly. The ambassador really would not have had time, from what I know about these meetings, and he, as I said, was steering and the demands of that meeting. Nonetheless, I make the further point, if there is an issue, it is not an ambassador alone in a mission. The ambassador has staff. We have persons there who are well paid, who are of senior level and are well experienced. And any national wanting to have a matter put can feel free and should be able to speak to any of the senior officials once the permanent representative and the ambassador is unavailable. That is part. It's not a one-man show that we create in these institutions. In the same way, if someone wants to see the Minister of Finance on a particular matter and the Minister of Finance is unavailable, then the Financial Secretary is the next senior person in that particular ministry. And if it's a matter related to finance, I hold the view that there always is somebody in the ministry who must be able to provide some guidance and support. And so, while I can't speak of the particular circumstance or circumstances to which DJ Mauricio spoke to, I've outlined how the system ought to work. Because it would mean, for example, if the ambassador or a minister were to travel, for example, as we speak, we have Ambassador Grant is away. We have, Minister Grant is away. The Honorable Lindsey Grant. We have the Honorable John L. Powell. Does that mean that the Ministry of Education is closed? No. Does that mean that the Ministry of Tourism is closed? No. Are there senior persons sufficiently able to take inquiries, consult where necessary, with the appropriate minister, with another minister? In the case of ministers, we will have other appointees made for the period of time. So there is always continuity. And the matter can't be, once it's a public matter, then public officials can, in fact, intervene on the matter. If it is a private matter you want to speak about, then it takes on a different note. But if it's something in the domain of the government to be actioned by the government, we have staff who should be able to deal with that matter. And I give a practical example. If someone wants to know whether their PAP has been paid, They go to their representative, that is one avenue. They call the Ministry of Sustainable Development, that is another avenue. They go to the Treasury Department, they ask for the Accountant General or some other person assigned to deal with these matters. And any of these functionaries should be able to give an appropriate answer as to what is the status quo. So again, it is a system manned by persons, senior persons, who should be able to take charge. And if one goes to the Treasury and Mr. Bradshaw is not there, there should be other senior officers who could take the query and deal with the matter, or contact Mr. Bradshaw at some period in time and be able to get back to the party. So once you don't have, take Jane's number, her address, and I will ensure that she gets a response. So these would allow some of the delays to be less. And so that is our proper system should in fact work, and that is how we would want it to work. So if somebody has a query about a passport, there's no need to wait on the ambassador. There's no need. In any of our missions abroad, there are senior functionaries who should be able to respond to the queries of the citizens, residents, and anyone, in fact, wanting to get information on matters pertaining to their country, or at least they should be able to point them to the appropriate channel.
Thank you so much for that response. We have a question, Mr. Gift, asking what are the plans to reduce the long lines at the Inland Revenue Department, and how can we better cater to the elderly? And also to the Minister of Health, are there plans to focus on health by getting specialized pieces of equipment and or offering specialized treatment? So I believe we can begin with Mr. He yields to the lady. Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Gibb. Thank you for the questions, Jackie. Now, healthcare and education have always been the focal point for the Team Unity administration, budget after budget. And the budget for 2022 will be no different, of course. And so in this budget for 2022, if we look at health in particular, we are seeing increased amounts being provided for health, for pharmaceuticals, because we understand we have our oncology unit, which requires a lot more pharmaceuticals and are more expensive, as well as other drugs such as our hemodialysis medication, and all of those that require even more funding. And so for 2022, we have actually been able to get an increase in our pharmaceutical bills to ensure that we'll be able to continue to provide that type of service to the persons of St. Kitts and Nevis. And of course, within our budget, we continue our focus on COVID-19 and the management of COVID-19 for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So of course, there is increased funding in relation to that as well. Now, in terms of being able to explore other diagnostic services, of course, the government and through the Ministry of Health will continue to explore options for diagnostic treatment and services. However, the government also recognizes that we can't do it alone. And so in these instances, we also encourage private entities to be able to provide those services as well. And we know that there are quite a number of persons who offer different diagnostic services throughout St. Kitts and Nevis. And we encourage that because the government cannot do it alone. And we have to be able to build out our health sector, not just the government alone, but other persons who are willing and able to provide the service as well. That is how we'll be able to expand our services. That is how we'll be able to grow our health as well. Our health services as well. Now, there was a question about the treatment, chemotherapy treatment, and I just wanted to remind that caller that we have our oncology unit, which provides that service. What we do not have right now currently is our radiotherapy services, but we are exploring options to be able to start providing radiotherapy services as well. And so those treatments are available at our oncology unit, as I said. So persons can always get in touch with our oncology unit who may need that type of treatment.
Thank you so much. Are you in a position to speak to if there are plans to improve the education system as well?
Well, I can't speak specifically to education, but I know coming out of our estimate sessions, education would have presented their plans as well. And of course, as I said at the opening, education and health have always been a focus of the Team Unity administration, and budget after budget, we see continuous increases provided to those two sectors in particular, and we expect the same for our 2022 budget as well.
For that, Mr. Gift?
Because it's so critical, and as the Minister of Health has just said, it had always been of pronounced importance in the context of our delivery. It is one of those social programs that this administration has paid very important attention to. That is why very early in our term, we were able to give Mary Charles a brand new status as an improved hospital in its delivery, improved the range of services that are available there. We brought back the ambulance, we brought dental services there, etc., expanding on support. The issue of the cancer treatment, the minister pointed out that is available. It had not always been. And that service came under Team Unity government when about 2016 or so, the oncology wing at its call was opened. And there are plans, of course, to expand. And the range of services, chemotherapy, is available at the facility, Bucky. And as the minister said, the plan and the intention is that hopefully in 2016 we can reach to radiotherapy. All these are interventions that are critical in the treatment of cancers. I want, in relation to the MRI, because that is a matter that has come up time and time again. There was a time in this country, under the former administration, when no such services were made available. The Team Unity government has always been concerned that the widest array of medical support services be available to our people in our country. And we are indeed happy that at least, starting from a position where there was none, we now have at least one, albeit a private facility that is providing that service. It means, however, that our citizens are saved significant sums of money from having to go abroad, whether to Antigua, Puerto Rico, Trinidad and Tobago, to get MRI support services. They are available right here on island, and it is efficient and it is good. Do we believe that the major hospital should have one? Yes, I do. Will we work to have one there? Yes, we certainly will do. Because, again, in the system, as far as delivery of health services, the country must never be vulnerable. And so to the best of our ability and the best of our finances, we will work hard to have that facility available at one of our three hospitals on the island of St. Kitts, and preferably we will have that at the JNF hospital by next year. So that commitment we make, and we will work hard for the realization of that.
Thank you so much for adding to that, Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. Gift?
Thank you, Jackie. I'd like to thank the caller for the opportunity that they offer for us. One important point is that the pandemic has created a new normal across the Federation and in particular the world, where one of the options of responding and reducing the spread of the virus is via space requirements. So the long lines that you see at Inland Revenue, they are a feature of almost commonly most businesses in the Federation, with National Bank, cable and wireless. So our facilities at the Inland Revenue Department can accommodate all of our customers. However, due to the distance requirements, we have been advised to only allow a selected number of persons into the building. Yes, and the department has critically analyzed some of its heavy customer days, and in our response That is, we have redesigned our e-services and came up with the option of the quick pay method where you could easily pay your driver's license, motor vehicle renewal, and property tax payment online. We recognize that the majority of our customers normally come into the department for those. As a solution to that, yes, we had in place a procedure to deal with our elderly and other persons. Again, I will discuss with my team to ensure that that practice is again back in place where elderly persons are fast-tracked into the department for service. We have also partnered with the police department to have reminder notices issued for persons who driver's license have expired, and we are encouraging persons, please don't wait until the last day in the month to renew your license or make your payment for your vehicle, because that is a pressure point. And we're encouraging persons to utilize our online options to pay your taxes that we appreciate and support the many activities in the budget. We'd also like to thank, I think it was Rock, for his suggestions. That's something that we would possibly explore. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your responses. We have a question about asking about repairs, for an update on repairs that should have been done to the Pelican Mall, as well as inquiring about vendors located at Port Zante getting access to cruise passengers.
Well, thank you for that question. And I do hope that senior functionaries of the government are listening to the people as they speak, and this program, another program. Some of the matters, if they are properly supervised, we wouldn't be hearing about them. And so it gives me an indication, and it gives us an indication what is happening. I wouldn't want to get into the specifics of these things, but again, to remind those who are public servants that they do serve the people, and they have to be in tune with what the people think, what the people want, what is reasonable, and their job is to attempt to bring solutions to the problems. The situation at Port Zante is one which is evolving. We have moved, and we have to count our progress, and we must make progress sometimes slowly in the context of what is happening. And COVID-19 required us that we have a new approach to organization and the way in which business is being conducted in Port Zante. We have as our most important strategy the life-saving strategy. That life must come first, that the government has a duty of care and protection for its citizens and residents. The establishment of barriers was intended to ensure that visitors to our shores by cruise would not be able to integrate in a manner that could bring harm to our people. Indeed, the only way, sure way, in which we could quickly move to remove all barriers is to ensure that all, or at least a high percentage of those persons who visit Port Zante during cruise days are vaccinated. But that is your own personal protection that you give yourself. So if you walk in Port Zante, you should ensure you're vaccinated. And in fact, if you walk anywhere, you should ensure that you are vaccinated unless there's a religious or medical reason that you should not do so. So we'd want to encourage more people to get themselves vaccinated. Those who are plying their trade in and around Port Zante must be vaccinated, because you will become exposed. You become vulnerable. And that is why we have exercised a gradual approach to the opening up of Port Zante. And it can't go on like that forever. So again, we want to strongly encourage those with an interest to be prepared to participate in economic life. And as people listen to the news in the United States of America, in the United Kingdom, in Germany. Everywhere there is only one way out of the shadow of the pandemic, is to get the highest number of persons vaccinated. So if you really want to participate, get yourself vaccinated and get the rest of your family and your friends and your associates and your colleagues vaccinated. The solution, the power of these things, the power lies in the decision making of every individual, because the response now is a personal one, to do or not to do, and understanding the implication of it. We have to do things differently because COVID-19 is not adjusting to us or for us. Therefore, we have to adjust to the reality that we are in a pandemic, and the way we do things will have to be tremendously different if we are to survive it. Already, we have lost too many lives to the COVID-19. One life is one too many. And therefore, again, I want to say to people who have an interest in the fuller opening up of the country to begin your own campaign to urge and to support the vaccination, or else we are going back in circles. It only takes one person to transmit the virus through a group, in a restaurant, in any crowd. And then we are back again to community spread with consequential responses. Lock down the economy, close down businesses. We do not want that to happen again. And while we are mindful that persons are still hurting, part of it is that as good as we have been in terms of the vaccination rollout, we need a higher level of protection in the society at large. And as we get closer to that, as we get, for example, to the 80% threshold of all adults being vaccinated, we are going to be able to open up with safety, not abandoned in the process. So I would just want again to urge, we are pretty close to the 70% target for all adults. We are now at 77%, 77.1 or thereabout. So we just need more persons tomorrow and the day after, and every day up to Sunday, to get persons out to the centers so that we can do more for the country. But we have come a long way from when Port Zante was closed to now it is opened. Up to today, I am aware that the chairman of the task force, Abdia Samuel, had some facilities inspected early this morning and being available to participate in the experience, in the business brought on by the cruise. It shows flexibility on the part of the government. Where Abdia Samuel is now, he's overseas. But yet he was able to call the Prime Minister, we have this particular challenge. I know you want to help persons, more persons to participate. I have a number of business persons who have called me. Their businesses need inspection. I say, do what you can, do what is necessary. Whatever you do, I trust your judgment. You'll have the 100% support of the Prime Minister. And he got it done. So we are willing to do what is necessary to assist people, but you have to play your part to make it possible. It brings me then to commend Mr. Abdia Samuel, who has been doing a tremendously successful job as the focal point of our response to the COVID-19 in terms of the National Task Force. And so I want to commend him and his team for getting things done today. The very fact that we were able to move, say from over Karambola to bring the ports back in town was due to the hard work of all the COVID-19 and the insistence of the cabinet that we want more persons to be able to participate in the benefits of the cruise industry. And we understand that the more places these persons are allowed to go, basically more business opportunities open up for people, and we would love that. But the cruise passengers themselves are saying, you are insisting that we come, that we be vaccinated so that we do not transmit the virus to your citizens and residents. Could you also provide some assurance that we will not expose? And it is a fair ask, and that is why we come up with the concept of the bubble tours, where there is control and there is a minimal probability of persons on either side, those residing here and those visiting, becoming infected with the COVID-19, and we must bear in mind COVID-19 kills.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Prime Minister. We have questions that were posed by an entertainer, and she asked what is going to be done for entertainers to ensure that they can earn during the upcoming season. She also asked two related questions. If A, when entertainers are bringing in items related to their trade, if the government would consider a special tax for them to make it easier to do so, and also if what will be done for entertainers to access duty-free concessions easier.
All right, thank you so much for those questions, and I would like to thank the caller, Sister Cynthia, for the questions as well. In terms of the duty-free concessions, as I would have discussed at the forum that we would have had on Friday, we are in the process of speaking with the relevant ministries, that is the Ministry of Finance and Customs, in determining the best way forward in order for us to be able to creative products. So those discussions are ongoing, and by next year we'll be able to provide more details on how you will be able to access those and the items that would be able to be duty-free as well. In terms of loans, as I indicated earlier in my presentations, what we have done so far is we were able to get commitments from investors, angel persons who want to be able to, if you have your business, whatever your business is in the creative and entertainment industry, we've already had persons who would have applied for those loans and who have already been successful in receiving those interest-free loans as well. Outside of that, we've communicated with the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation to be able to provide guarantees for loans. They have 3 different classifications of loans that they will be offering the guarantee for. They have what they call the classic guarantee for 10 years for business existence, for 2 or more years with a 75% maximum guarantee. There's the working capital guarantee for 5 years for businesses existing for 2 or more years with an 80% maximum guarantee. There is a startup guarantee for 10 years for businesses existing for 3 months to 2 years with an 80% maximum guarantee. So clearly, just as the Prime Minister was speaking in relation to you doing your part, being vaccinated to participate, then there are also other ways you must also do your part. You must make sure that whatever business you have, be it in the entertainment industry, the creative in sectors, that you also do your part. If you need to have your business licenses updated, do that. If you need to be able to register with Social Security, do that. Make sure you're always up to date, and so that you will be able to participate and have access to these offers and these different initiatives and incentives as well. That will be very important for you. But I also, I like the idea that she gave in terms of having businesses or financial institutions such as bank being able to offer lower interest on their loans. And that's something that we can speak with the financial institutions and see how they too can do their part to assist and provide some type of interest, lower interest rate on loans for persons within the entertainment industry. I agree. It was one of the hardest hit industries due to the pandemic, and so we have to see how best we can be able to revitalize them. And so I want to take this opportunity now to encourage some banks. There are a lot of Christmas specials that banks have, and I think I heard some on the radio speaking about Christmas specials for car loans, etc. But here's an opportunity as well for the banks to be able to provide assistance to persons within the entertainment industry and provide them with loans at special lower rates and be able to assist them in getting themselves back up and going as we slowly reopen the economy. But in order for us to be able to get there, as the Prime Minister indicated, we all want to be able to have entertainment up and going again. In order for us to be able to be up and going again, we have to be able to do our own individual part. We have to be able to be vaccinated to participate. In New York right now, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to the theaters, you can't go to any of the services or even events without being vaccinated. You can't even travel to the US now without being vaccinated. And that is not that we're forcing persons and saying that be vaccinated because we say so. We're saying it because that's the only way we will be able to get out of this pandemic safely. We need enough persons immunized, and the only way we'll do that is through vaccination. So it's not a matter of us trying to hit everybody over the head and say this is what you must do, but we're saying it because the world over, doctor after doctors, the WHO, scientists all agree that the only way out of the COVID-19 right now is to have as much persons as possible immunized. We have set our target and we are almost there, and we just need, it's around maybe another 20% of the person, adults in particular, to go out and be vaccinated. We want our schools to be able to continue to function without having to be closed down. How are we going to do that? Our children who can be vaccinated between the ages of 12 and 17, we would encourage parents to be able to have them vaccinated as well. So it's not a matter of us trying to force person, but we recognize, the world over have all recognized that the only way out of this pandemic, the only way to get us to some sense of normalcy, the only way for us to feel free to enjoy entertainment and mass gatherings, the only way that we can continue to live without this constant open and closing of borders and schools and all of the different sectors and industries, the only way we can safely bring back tourism is by enough persons being immunized through vaccination. And so I too want to encourage persons, especially in the entertainment industry, I'll encourage you to be vaccinated. Even if you want to travel to perform, a lot of the countries are not accepting entertainers or artists who are not vaccinated. And so even for your own personal interest, to be able to access markets outside of St. Kitts and Nevis, you have to be vaccinated. And so it's not something that we are just asking here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's for your own benefit as well, for you to be able to reach markets beyond our shores. And in order for us to be able to safely reopen the industry, you should be vaccinated. And we're heading towards that. And so I'm going to encourage people more and more, go out and get vaccinated in order for us to be able to resume the entertainment industry at the levels in which we would have had them at some time in the past. It's a slow and gradual reopening. The entertainment may have been the first to be closed down, and it appears as if, yes, it may be the last to be reopened, but we're getting there. And we are already in discussions with recommendations and guidelines already before the task force from the Ministry of Entertainment for the safe reopening of mass events and the entertainment industry as a whole. And so before we actually release those guidelines, I'm asking everyone, as the Prime Minister said, vaccination is how we're going to get there to where we would love to be. And I'm just pleading with everybody, please get vaccinated if you can be vaccinated.
Thank you so much, Minister Akila Barron.
The concessions point raised by Sensia, and I want to commend her. She's an entertainer by heart, by spirit, and I love her and her approach to things. I want to commend her for the positive messages she has brought on the whole issue of vaccination. So to some extent, she's a unique personality. I am aware that she herself had challenges in accessing the duty-free, and one of it has been that there had not been an appropriate legislative or policy framework with regard to how entertainers access that. And the route that had been tried in the past was going through the small business legislation to access. But certainly, having reconfigured the ministry, one of the things that we are hoping is that we will have a policy that comes, draft policy, that considers the special areas in which the government could provide support for entertainers. What are the specific equipment, for example? We know if you're in agriculture, you can get on a four-wheel drive, you can get duty-free on a tractor, you can get on certain implements. In the same way, we need to have these identified and in a way that does not expose to abuse the system, to abuse, and we certainly will look at that favorably, because this is going to be critical as we attempt to build out a stronger industry and one that is more involved. So I would want to encourage her and to encourage the ministry. I know they have been doing work to get to the point where we can articulate this, and then that will take away some of the time involved in going through finding the right program under which it could be justified. And so that is something that I would love to see, and we are working on. Again, in terms of financing largely is a prerogative of policy decisions by lending institutions, and the government can encourage, and the government will encourage, and tonight we have heard the minister encourage that. We will see what more we can do to have a policy that is more favorable. But there is a challenge and there is an opportunity. There is now an opportunity for our credit unions, for our banks, to be able to come up with a policy much more facilitating to the entertainers. And we, of course, would welcome that. And I will ask that our financial secretary and her team also look at any incentives that the government can provide to ensure that more financing becomes available to this particular area of engagement. It's an important one for all people, and it is a significant industry around the world. And we certainly want to help our entertainers to explore their talent to the fullest and to earn high incomes from so doing. So again, we are the same vision and views on the matter, and we will expedite policy actions in this area.
Thank you so much for adding to that, Mr. Prime Minister. Just to ensure we've answered all of her questions, and for clarity's sake, I think she also asked if the government will consider lesser tax. I think she called it an entertainment tax, to make it easier for entertainers who want to bring in items in relation to their trade. I don't know if that was addressed.
Well, I think that I just addressed in the context of the tax program.
Of the concessions?
When you bring in things, that's what we call it, you get a concession. The concession could cover VAT, it could cover duty, it can cover custom service charge, CSC,
okay, so it will cover a lessening of the tax or no tax at all?
Yes, it means a reduced tax. Whenever we speak of concession, it's really a reduction, a relief of the burden.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying that, so that everybody is clear. Also, would the guidelines be in response to the question about what can be done for entertainers to earn during the upcoming season, the guidelines, and being...
We would provide that information, and we're working towards having those ready certainly for when Carnival resumes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I hope we're all clear on the responses to all of those questions. The final one we have here from the callers was regarding the IMF article. That's the International Monetary Fund article, Mr. Prime Minister. And the caller asked what were the good points and what were the bad points in that article.
I want to thank Mr. Howell for that question. He always asks the more difficult ones, but I want to thank him nonetheless for keep this particular matter in focus. I would say the Article 4 report and the concluding statement on St. Kitts and Nevis has overall been quite positive, and I can't generally speak of bad points. They have identified some areas of challenge where the downside risk would be. What if the CBI program, for example, underperform? What if you have a natural disaster? All these things can constrain the growth. They warn if we have, for example, another wave of the COVID-19 community spread, that of course would put a damper on economic recovery. But overall, in my view, it has been a very positive report. It made reference to the fact, and this is something we ought to be proud about. There was an article in Trinidad speaking about the impact of COVID-19 on St. Kitts and Nevis, and a friend of mine sent it to me, and she circled an area of it, and what she circled, she thought that this was a proud moment for St. Kitts and Nevis was that the IMF reported that St. Kitts and Nevis entered the COVID-19 pandemic from a position of fiscal strength following nearly a decade of surpluses. So this is significant. What he's saying, our fiscal house was the strongest and the best in the entire hemisphere. So we have gone large, not just within the OECS, not just within CARICOM, but wider field within the hemisphere. St. Kitts and Nevis was at the strongest position fiscally in relation when the COVID-19 came and visited us. Secondly, it commended us for our performance up to last year in securing lives of our people. And reported again that we had a record best performance in terms of the number of cases we had then at the end of 2020 and the impact in terms of deaths. On a per capita basis, again, we were the best. So those were critically important positive observations. The IMF report also indicated what we had known for some time, that the public debt had been reduced to an all-time low under the Team Unity administration. Prior to the Team Unity administration, it was at the world record worst. We were the second most indebted state under the previous administration. So we have come a long way. But most importantly, the international benchmark is a debt-to-GDP ratio of 60%. And we were the first within the sub-region of the OECS to have achieved that benchmark. It was intended that that benchmark should be achieved by 2030. I think by 2018, we had already achieved that target. That speaks very well to our ability to manage our nation. And it also made reference to the good safety net systems that we have. Indeed, time and time again, the Financial Secretary has reminded that we have more social safety nets than any other country. And whether you look at it in terms of our PAP, which is a major one, $500 support delivered to thousands of families, many of them still earning, but in our view not earning a livable wage. That is significant. Whether you look at it in terms of the number of free services that our young people and our elderly can access from the health system, those are social safety nets. They buffer us, they help us, and they protect the poor and the vulnerable. Whether it is the other services that you are sick, you can go to the Ministry of Social Development and get help. You could get assistance with burial. All those are part of the social safety net that is available. And we have done perhaps one of the most significant renovation and support in the housing rehabilitation in the country over the last 100 years. After the two hurricanes of 2017, Irma, and I think it was Maria, we assisted over 3,000 households repairing the roof. In fact, some of their houses were so substantially damaged that we had to build a number of homes for persons all over the country, Sandy Point, St. Paul's, Tabernacle, Phillips. And so that is part 2 of our social safety net program. So we have done well in that regard, and those are highlighted in the program. We were also complimented for the implementation of the stimulus program. Members would recall that we had the largest and the best stimulus package, over $120 million earmarked in our first stimulus package. When we were giving persons substantial sums of money in other countries, they were getting $75 and $300. We were talking thousands of dollars. So significantly, we had done well. And of course, in all that, they frame it in the context of our prudent fiscal management. And they indicated that while we have been spending now 2 stimulus packages, and we have to do that to get the country out of the doldrums, we have to do that to ensure that persons, the dignity of the poor, the dignity of the unemployed is maintained, and that social disquiet is contained in the country by positive interventions. There will be a point where we have to, once we get through the worst part, begin again to save for the proverbial rainy day. So these are just some of the very good things that have come out of the program. And in terms of the, I wouldn't say negative, because it's a very constructive report. In terms of the concerns, is that we have to be careful, one, that we always save for the rainy day. And so once things get back to normal, we advise again to save so that we will be able to respond to exogenous shocks and other shocks that will come up. And we are told, as it were, that we have to continue our plan for diversification of the economy. And small, vulnerable states always have to put a significant sum of resources away, because we never know what may hit us. No one anticipates, for example, COVID-19. And look what it has done to our country and to every country in the world, including the United States of America.
Thank you so much for your response to that question, Mr. Prime Minister. I want to thank you all. We were able to respond to all the questions that came from our callers, and we were able to hear their concerns and recommendations as well. At this stage, we have a little treat for you. We had a question was put to the public regarding the topic this evening, and we're talking about the 2022 budget as a critical planning tool for our recovery. And persons who asked were told the government is now in the process of structuring and finalizing the budget for the upcoming year. One, in your opinion, what are the major areas that should be addressed or covered in the upcoming budget? And two, is there any specific area that you would like to see outlined in this year's budget that you think would improve the functioning of any particular sector that the person was involved in? And so we have responses from members of the public. They are coming to you in both a video and audio format. I just wanted to put that out there for persons who are viewing. So some of them are video and some of them are audio. And we're going to play those for you now.
In your opinion, what area you think should be focused on in the upcoming 2022 budget?
I think that we focus on the youth, creating more jobs for the youths in this federation, and I also think that to boost the economy, we got to get back more tourist ships and open up the borders fully, that the ships may come in, that the taxi men and women of this federation can go back to work fully.
Yeah, so also I think that we need to put some more funding there for small businesses, and because as you see, COVID has taken a toll on the society, and right now we are basically in a position where a lot of people that have small business are suffering, and some of the people, instead of being given help from the government to refurbish or re-enhance what is there already. We are actually now opening more businesses and those businesses that are actually struggling in this economy at this time. So I think that we need to put something in the budget now for that, enhancing some of these businesses that's there that went through the little turbulence with the pandemic. And I just think that now those people that are seeking to start small businesses, that we should try to help them financially and help them in a better program so they can be successful in doing so.
We have some audio responses that we're going to play for you now. Persons responding to what they think should be a focus of the budget.
In your opinion, what major area in the upcoming budget should be addressed?
In my opinion, I believe the Department of Information needs some attention, more specifically the local media house under the present government's governance. I believe that there is financial support that is needed so that this media platform can be even further developed and the content produced can be of a higher standard and quality as it's representing the nation as a whole.
In your opinion, what are the major areas that you think should be addressed in the upcoming budget?
Well, I think you should provide more job for the youngsters that are finishing school. You know what I mean? So they won't be on the street stranded and looking to pick somebody's pocket, break somebody's house. If you understand where I'm coming from. Because either hands, we don't know, a lot of mischief going to be done. So I think y'all should provide more job for the young men them. Instead of them stopping them from going into gangs, you know what I mean, going stranded and other people misleading them to do bad. So I think job is the best thing for them. Some kind of program to get them skill and what's not.
In your opinion, what area would you like to be focused on in the new budget?
The health sector, that's foremost for me. I would like to see, vast improvement in that area. So I think additional funds will be, needed to really do all the upgrades that are required.
In your opinion, what major areas in the government should focus on in the upcoming budget?
My opinion is that focusing more on the children that live in school, because they can't get a job as they finish. Rams populated, Polo, and these other stores. So in my opinion, I believe that he should focus on more like, what should I say, factories and those kind of areas.
In your opinion, what area you think the government should focus on in the upcoming budget?
All right, healthcare. Healthcare based on the fact that the health infrastructure need a lot of attention, like of the general hospital. I think we need more dedication and equipments for persons facing serious illnesses.
In your opinion, what area you think the government need to focus on in the upcoming budget?
In the upcoming budget, I feel the government should focus more on education and the health sector. Reason for this is in the year 2020 and 2021, as we are currently in, we've seen that those two areas in particular were devastated most by the coronavirus. And as prepared as we think we were, there are some areas in those said departments that really need to be revamped and re-evaluated for the upcoming budget.
The persons, we would like to thank the persons who participated in that little exercise for sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it, and it's brought a different dynamic to the program. At this stage, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up this evening's program. So don't touch that dial. Stay tuned.
it's only just a phase. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gonna be safe. Everybody gonna be safe. One kind, one people. We are roll up to roll up, cause no man's alone. Do what's right, cause I love you. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah, yeah. It's better for us. Tell your mommy to let it roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your moderator this evening. And Leadership Matters is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. This evening, he's joined by the Minister of Health, ICT, Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, our Accountant General, Levi Bradshaw, and the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department, also known as the IRD, Mr. Edward Gift. We're going to try and take the questions and comments that came in via WhatsApp. What kind of program would this be if we didn't take the questions and comments came in via WhatsApp? Because we've given you that option, and we're going to try our best to answer as many as possible. And I apologize in advance if we're not able to take the ones that you might have sent in but didn't get in when we cut off. And we will try to give priority to those that are asking in relation to the topic, as we have the persons with the relevant expertise here. So we want the persons who are trying to put their questions to the persons who can answer them, that they get an opportunity to do so. This one is asking if, well, this person is pretty much asking if health care workers can get a top-up in December, Mr. Prime Minister. And we have a question asking, saying, I know you are discussing finance. Her question, the person's question is about COVID, and the Minister of Health is here. Why is the Ministry of Health mandating that players must be vaccinated who want to compete in sports competition when that was not said in the latest SRNO? This is hurting young sportsmen and women in the country. Please, we need some answers. So, Minister, would you like to address those before we move on?
In terms of the requirements for vaccination, I know from our presentation provided by the Chief Medical Officer, she would have indicated the higher risk of persons being able to come down with COVID-19 due to the fact that these sports are contact sports. So you're in each other's faces, you are talking each other's faces, you're breathing heavy in each other's faces, and so she believes that we can be able to lower the risk of spreading COVID-19 if persons are vaccinated. And so it's just a recommendation that is being made from Ministry of Health. We don't want to go back to where we were just last month with the high number of cases that we have. We've been able to manage the COVID cases. We've brought them down significantly, and we don't want to revert back to where we're seeing another wave, another increase in the number of cases. And so we're trying to monitor the risk associated with spreading and the COVID-19. And one of the greatest risks is through those contact sports, because then you're, as we said, you're right in each other's faces. You have that type of contact. You can't wear masks during these games, and so it's just being suggested for your safety, for the safety of the players on the team, for the safety of your families, because once you leave the game, you go back to your families. We just believe that the risk is lessened once persons are vaccinated, and so that's why that recommendation is being placed. It's for your protection, the protection of your teammates, the protection of your family members, to make sure everybody is safe and we do not end up in another situation where we have another outbreak of COVID-19. And the reality is that COVID-19 is still here, and so we just have to make sure we take the necessary precautions to maneuver as we try to get enough persons vaccinated and immunized against COVID-19 so that we can return to a more normal state.
And the top up for healthcare workers?
Thank the caller for asking that question, and certainly at the appropriate time we will address that matter. We would have already have a general review of salaries and wages of persons in the public sector, save with the onslaught of the COVID-19, its impact both on government revenue flows and government expenditure. We certainly at this time will have to wait for more appropriate time. Hopefully 2022 we turn the corner out of the pandemic. We see the government cash flow position improving significantly. We certainly will want to begin to revisit that. We hope that we will have no setback in terms of community spread or increases, spike again in COVID-19, and that is why we are asking persons to become vaccinated. Our frontline workers, including those in the health services delivery, must in fact get themselves vaccinated so that we can minimize risks to all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And once we have that satisfactorily high level of vaccination and protection, we're sure with the measures that we will outline in the budget that the country will be in a path of growth, and then a re-examination of wages and salaries would be a reasonable proposition at that time. Again, the power lies in us.
We have someone who actually asked, well, they said, in light of the potential shortages and food challenges, is there any consideration to start the December concessions early, say mid-November? Maybe they missed your introduction, Minister.
Thank you. We have heard you, and we have started from the 15th of November with those relevant concessions that I've outlined. But thank you for the recommendation, and we have already taken it on board.
And I believe you said it will extend beyond December, some of the relief?
Some of the relief will go all the way down to the end of February. So we have 3 months. We have been very generous on this occasion.
So I hope the person is happy to hear it starting early and it is extending beyond December. We have someone who said, I want to commend the government for its good fiscal management during this pandemic. We all have someone who this is budget related, and they're saying that for years we've heard how good the tourism industry was doing, and we as taxi drivers, who are the ambassadors of our island, made St. Kitts the #1 tourism destination. We haven't worked in almost 2 years at no fault of ours. The bank's still asking for their money, and we ain't making any. My question to you, is there anything in the budget for taxi drivers? Yes, we received the stimulus, but so have everyone else. We're still not working, and the financial institutions don't care. Is there a special package for us taxi and tour operators in the budget?
I think that we can't give out everything that is in the budget tonight, or else defeat the relevance of having the budget. What I would say is that taxi operators have suffered, and we are concerned about that. Luckily, we are seeing an improvement in the tourist traffic into the country, both by air and by cruise. For November, we are expecting over 77,000 visitors by cruise to the country. In December, we anticipate just about 120,000. So within these 2 months, we are going to get close to 200 visitors into the country. That is a stark contrast to last year when there was none. So we have come a long way. I would want to also report that the $1,000 a month stimulus that we had made available in the second round of the stimulus arrangements, taxi operators also benefited from that. So you have not been left alone. The other initiatives that we announced, the deferment of payment on electricity, and so on, the exemptions or deferment of payment and water bills, all those were available to everyone. And so taxi operators would have benefited from that. The loans, we would advise persons to go in to their financial institution, alert them as to their situation, and to request these, because there can be a delay, a postponement of payment of interest and principal. We had negotiated this with the central bank, which had given that mandate to commercial banks. In the context of St. Kitts and Nevis, over $310 million, a loan portfolio of over $310 million benefited from the moratorium which we negotiated with the central bank. So among that were persons who were involved in the transportation business. So some of them would have the moratorium, that is the delay, the postponement of the payment of interest and principal, that has now been extended, I think, until March next year. It was to have ended at the end of September this year. Made a presentation to the Monetary Council. The Monetary Council agreed for a further 6 months extension. So again, if you have not done so, especially if you are a taxi operator in good standing, paying your indebtedness on time before the pandemic, you have a good case now to go into the banks and to have them give you some relief. In fact, one of the sectors that we particularly noted needed to have this moratorium extended was the tourism sector, for all the reasons advanced, that you had been hard hit and that it would take some time for you to recover. Any other easement that we can give, we will identify in the budget, but already we have given substantially to every citizen affected by the pandemic, both in this round of the stimulus package and in the first one, which we announced. So you are never alone. The Team Unity government is standing with you. I would also want to encourage these operators to ensure they register with the Social Security when the good times return as self-employed persons, so that they will get some measure of benefit at times of difficulties, and of course, well, secure their pension where they are not yet over the required age to qualify for pension.
Well, having said that, you can't reveal everything that's coming in the budget. I don't know if you can answer this person who is asking if the government intends to put any low-interest loans in the budget for businesses.
Again, we have done so this year through the bank. We are one of the lowest rate and mortgages was proposed and was in effect, and we certainly are mindful to do what we can to ensure that financing is made cheap and affordable. So that is on the table. but we will look at it again more comprehensively and make a determination by December when the budget is being presented.
I think that brings us to the end of our WhatsApp messages as it relates to questions of the persons who are here. And I want to thank you for taking the time out to address those questions and concerns. Unfortunately, given the time constraints, we're not able to go through all the ones that are not related to the topic. Again, when we have persons here from specific backgrounds and fields, we like to capitalize on their presence and put the questions and the concerns to them that are relevant to the areas that they have. So hopefully in a subsequent or another Leadership Matters, we'll be able to address those questions. But I want to thank you nonetheless for participating. It's very important that you participate, and I want to thank you for doing so. At this moment, we're going to bring the program to a close, and we're going to have our guests wrap up in reverse order of how they started, which means, Mr. Gift, you get to go first this time.
Good evening. Again, thank you, Jackie. Again, I would just like to finally thank all the callers for their suggestions with regards to how the department can improve their operations to improve tax compliance. And the key message that I would like to leave our customers with is that, again, the Inland Revenue Department will want to ensure that it partner with its taxpayers during this recovery crisis to ensure that they remain viable as businesses, and we are open to working with customers in developing a payment plan to suit their needs. We also want to remind our customers that is, the department has a large variety of online services where persons could file and pay all their taxes at the department with the exception of one, that is the stamp duty. That is, as customers, you could pay your unincorporated tax, your corporate income tax, withholding tax, island enhancement fund, etc. You could also renew your motor vehicle license, driver's license online, and simply come to the department and pick up your sticker and driver's license ID and avoid the entire lines. And for persons who have property tax outstanding, again, persons can utilize our quick pay option. Again, we also want to remind businesses that are collecting VAT and keeping that is a situation that the government would not tolerate. And again, we want those persons to come in. We also would just like to thank all the customers and all the persons who are exercising their duties as responsible citizens and are ensuring that they are paying their taxes on time to the department. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Gift, Comptroller at the Inland Revenue Department, also known as the IRD. We're now going to hear from Mr. Bradshaw, who is the Accountant General.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and it is indeed a pleasure to have been afforded this opportunity, Honorable Prime Minister, to participate in this very important forum. You know, I've had the benefit of time, you know, having served in the public sector for an extended period of time. I've been here during the tough times, and I've been here during the difficult and challenging times, and I've been here during the times that are not so difficult and so challenging. And it's so much a pleasure to be able to be a part of the team during those days when we were arguing the case to basically be prudent, save for a rainy day. Nobody knew that the rainy day will come by way of COVID. But fortunately for our country, a very small country, it's the smallest nation on earth, we were able to respond because of our prudence to meet the needs of our citizens during these challenging times. And as your Accountant General, I've had the opportunity to participate in meetings with our colleagues from across the region and the challenges that they are facing. And in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have not operated with an overdraft for several years. That is commendable for a small nation. So I would really want to urge us, as we continue to work to build this nation, that we continue to pay attention to the little things that we did. the little things that we do to ensure that we practice sound financial and cash management. Like government, these things can be done in our own individual lives. Save for the rainy day. And our country did save for the rainy day, and we are now able to assist. I mean, can you imagine what it would have been like if our government and our people could not have been able to respond by way of stimulus to the needs of our citizens during this time? So I'm really happy that I had this opportunity to serve in this capacity over the years. And I would really want to, on behalf of the staff of the Accountant General's Department, really commend the team there for their hard work. Sometimes we go unnoticed, and because, you know, it almost comes routine for what we do. Every demand that is made upon us, whether during COVID, during lockdown, never once was the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis paid late. We were able to pay early in a number of cases. I would also want to take this opportunity, Prime Minister, to just, you know, acknowledge the family and thank all those persons in the community of St. Kitts and Nevis and overseas who would have expressed sympathy to us at the Treasury on the passing of one of our giants, Mr. Roger Gums. You know, he would have served the country with distinction, being a champion of a particular category of our workers, our ex-workers, our pensioners, and so forth. So, you know, may his soul rest in peace, and may we all find ways that we can support his family. And I thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bradshaw. Levi Bradshaw, Accountant General in the Ministry of Finance. We now will hear from the Honorable Akira Byron Nesbitt.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And it indeed was a pleasure being here on another Leadership Matters. There were quite a bit of information that was shared. There were a number of suggestions and questions raised to help us as we continue to build out for our budget for 2022. I believe that this type of forum really assisted in giving ideas, being able to hear from the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, hear their thoughts, what are their visions and plans for St. Kitts and Nevis for 2022, and that indeed would help us as we continue through this process of building out our budget. And so I want to commend the Prime Minister for having this particular Leadership Matters so that we can be able to, as we finalize the budget, hear from the people. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? And I thought it was indeed truly productive. Now, in terms of the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development, for years we have been hearing people speak about the fact that we need to diversify our economy. And certainly COVID-19 has highlighted the need for us to be able to diversify our economy. During the campaign in 2020, the Team Unity administration recognized the need for us to be able to diversify our economy. And it is from there that was birthed this Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development. And ministry that helps us in that pivot that we need to be able to add more to our economy, more options to our economy, more ways of being able to gain some type of income generation within our economy. We've seen within the COVID-19 era how entertainment was able to continue in some aspects, for instance, film and photography, even though the country may have been closed, that's something that was able to continue to flourish. And from it, there can be spin-offs that we can gain, such as the marketing of the island at levels that we would not be able to pay for. I can even give you examples of just recently in the Dominican Republic, there was a movie that would have been shot there on a beach in particular. And because of the success of that movie, between July to now, the number of tourists visiting that particular beach in Dominican Republic skyrocketed because of that movie. We see the potential in being able to have entertainment as one of our driving factors within our economy, and we understand the need for us to diversify and pivot and be able to create more options within our economy for us to be able to continue to grow as a nation and to be successful. And so for 2022, we're looking forward to what the ministry will be able to provide, how it will be able to help on that continued trend towards our diversification and introducing more in the entertainment industry to the 4 main areas that we would have identified in film and photography, music and entertainment, the arts and innovation, because we believe that that is what is necessary to continue to grow our country, and we see the value that can be created through this industry. And so we are thankful that we are able to now be able to create that platform and create that outlet for the entertainers to be able to reach their full potential and to be able to also reap their own personal benefits and rewards that would only come down to the benefits for our country as a whole. And so I'm very happy to have been here tonight so that we can show the government's firm commitment in the build out of the entertainment industry, and our belief that this is a way in which we can be able to successfully diversify our economy, and we can see gains from it as well. And so again, I want to thank the Prime Minister for having me here tonight. I believe that this session was informative, but it was also instructive, and we were able to gain more insight from the callers. And so I'm sure for 2022, persons would feel as if the budget represents or is a reflection of their own opinions and thoughts. So having a session like this would help in that process as well. So everyone, just have a great night. And just a reminder again, if you can be vaccinated, please get vaccinated so that we can continue to open up our economy even more and get to that point where we are comfortable with the level of immunization in the country so that we feel even safer to do more. I mean, everybody keeps asking for more. Why can't we get some more of this? Or why can't we open up a little bit more? Vaccination is the answer. And so I'm encouraging everyone who can be vaccinated to please get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister of Health, ICT, Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and Talent Development, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet. We're now going to hear from the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris.
Let me begin by thanking you, Jackie, for being a wonderful host and for presiding over another informative and productive session of Leadership Matters. Equally, I want to thank each of the panelists for participating and for adding value to the public conversation. Indeed, this is one good example of accountability in operation and clearly a reflection of good governance at work. Where here the high officials of the government have come and, as it were, opened themselves up to questions and being required to respond at a moment's notice. In this regard, I want to thank our Minister of Health et al., the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, for taking time, for being here, and for addressing some very significant matters relating to health and relating to the new Ministry of Entertainment and Entrepreneurship. I want to thank Mr. Levi Bratcher, our Accountant General, for his hard work, and to commend him and through him the members of his staff. I join him in also extending my own condolences to the wife and family of Roger Gums, who have served the institution and the country very well. I want to commend Mr. Giff as our Comptroller of Inland Revenue for the work at that revenue collecting department and for the services that are being provided. I know for 2022, he will advance the efficiency of the department. We will ensure that most, if not all, of the services are online and therefore provide more options for us to make it easy, facilitate payments of the taxes. All in all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the Cabinet, thank you to my constituents, and thank you to my country for having the confidence in me to lead the country at this most difficult time. Together, we shall make it to the safer and stronger future. May God continue to bless us all.
Thank you all so much. I would like to thank you, our listeners and viewers, the persons who participated, for making this program what it is, for joining us weekly on this show, and I hope that you found it educational and informative as well. I'd also like the persons who share the link for this program and ensure that other people are tuned in and listening. Thank you so much for making the program the success it is. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I was your host. I was your moderator, sorry, and it's always a pleasure to be here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, has a pleasant night's rest, and take care. So Leadership Matters is aired every Tuesday right here on ZIZ at 8 p.m. So I'll see you soon.
We had it focused on another edition of Leadership Matters here on WIN FM 98.9. We now head back to our regular programming.
We're different. We're